How's it going, guys? My name's Adam, and today we're going to be doing a review of the iPod Nano 6th generation in 2023. This thing came out almost 13 years ago, and you can sort of tell, but you can also sort of not tell. First off, let's just start around with the design. And this is where it really doesn't show its age. This almost feels like a new product. This is the yellow version, and honestly, it looks extremely modern and extremely clean, especially for around Steve Jobs' time where everything did actually seem a little bit older, but this seems actually very new. And this was an interesting product because the iPod Nano was kind of getting outdated. It was getting succeeded by the iPod Touch and as well as the iPhone because they were just superior. They had a touch screen, they were just more capable. So the iPod Nano kind of tried to combat this. This actually does have a touchscreen. Now it is a very small touchscreen. It's a 1.55-inch multi-touch screen with a resolution of about 240 by 240. And that's not too bad, but honestly, when you actually look close at it, you can kind of see the pixels, but honestly, it's not that bad at all. It will do fine for day-to-day use. Speaking of which, for day-to-day usage, what would you actually be using this for in this day? Well, it's mainly for music because that's what the iPod Nano was basically all about, for music. That's what the iPod was all about, besides the iPod Touch. The iPod Touch was more of a slightly downgraded version of the iPhone. So, this does support music, this can do music, and basically, even though this doesn't have Bluetooth, it does have a 3.5mm headphone jack right at the bottom there. And this honestly is a good thing because a lot of people, they actually don't mind 3.5mm headphone jack. A lot of people, I think, who are going to be buying this will have a 3.5mm headphone jack around. However, it is a little bit upsetting that there is no Bluetooth, as around 2010, a lot of these kind of devices and most iPhones had Bluetooth, so a little bit disappointing there. However, another thing that you can do besides music is that you can store photos. So you can store photos and they will just basically look like your typical photos except in a much smaller scale. You can zoom in on them, things like that, but there's not much other capability. Another thing that you can do is that you can also see the time. So as you can see, it actually is a pretty cool clock interface that I have here, but there's also other ones too. But there's also the stopwatch, which is pretty similar to your typical old iPhone stopwatch. As you can see, just stop it, stop, you start it, you stop it. And then there's also a timer, so that's actually pretty helpful because let's just say that you want to, I don't know, use this for other purposes such as like cooking, something like that. And you can set a timer here and it will work perfectly fine. So let's look at some other things as well. There's also the radio. The radio, I can tell you right now, it fully works and it actually works very well. If you don't have music on here, then you could just listen to the radio, and generally most of the current hits will play, which is really nice because it kind of makes up for a lot of the things that happen with the music, as you have to import it from iTunes. There's no other way to do it. You can't import it, through Wi-Fi because there is no Wi-Fi to support. So there's also podcasts. You can import podcasts, which is pretty nice. But there is no, you can't really watch movies or anything on here, which is unfortunate, though why would you watch movies on a 240 by 240 screen that's 1.55 inches? I don't know. But for people who wanted to, a little bit unfortunate. Now the Fitness Plus app, let's go into here. It is actually pretty helpful. You can set your height and your weight, and basically you can track on your run. It's almost like you use an Apple Watch in terms of this Fitness Plus app because you can probably put it on your shirt or something like that and just run with this, and you can count your steps, you can count things like that. I haven't really used it because this iPod specifically, I got it for so cheap because when I unplug it, it basically turns off because the battery is not the best. Well, it's basically unusable, but basically, now what we have is settings. So in our settings, I just want to show kind of what there is in terms of, some things that we have here. So this has a capacity of 8 gigabytes. I put a few songs on here, and yeah, I mean, 8 gigabytes for just music is totally enough. Even if you want to put your entire catalog on here, for some people it won't be enough, but for the general amount of people, it will be totally fine, which is great. And then another thing is the brightness I wanted to show right here. So the brightness can go actually very, very bright. For this kind of screen, it's pretty bright. Even at the lowest setting, it doesn't get that dim. It's the only thing that I've noticed. It doesn't get very dim. It gets somewhat dim, but not dim enough, where you'll still be kind of blinded by the light if you're in a very dark environment, which is a little bit unfortunate. So, yeah, that is, actually, I do want to show one more thing. I want to show the wallpapers. So there is a few wallpapers. Most of the wallpapers are coming from the iPhone. So if you remember this one, pretty typical. It's also like the typical like black one. There's this one right here. This one's actually kind of cool. Actually, I'm gonna set that one right there. There's a few others, but yeah, most of them are just coming from the iPhone. I don't think there's any new ones or anything like that. Most of them are just coming from like the iPhone 4 or the iPhones, you know, like iOS 6, so pre-iOS 7. And yeah, so there's not much to talk about for this phone. In terms of the audio quality, I would say it's the only thing that's left to really talk about. The audio quality is fine. I mean, it is just like normal audio quality, you know, just listening through headphones. It is pretty high, especially it depends how good the audio quality is. You know, it depends how good it is with what you import it with. So honestly, all in all, is this thing worth it? Honestly, even for 20 bucks, no, not at all. There's nothing that there's nothing good about this thing. I mean, yes, you can hold some music, yes, you can put some photos on here, but you can do that with a $20 iPhone 4, even though I don't recommend getting that either. If you really, really want something that is a primary listening device, I would at least, you know, recommend you getting an iPod Touch, because that actually is what this was kind of wanting to be, but couldn't be, because this is just a really small, significant kind of thing. Even if you got this for 20 bucks, yeah, I wouldn't even recommend it. For, you know, $1 from what I got it for, it's cool to, you know, check out, things like that. But besides that, it's nothing more than like an antique and a piece of history. But I will say it is a very nice build quality, as I said. So there are a few things going for it, but overall, there's not much to talk about. And yeah, that's basically it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.